Hi, hey, Jacob here, Authentic Gay Blog. As you can see, a little bit of an out of control beard. My hair's getting longer. Lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. So, over the last 2 weeks, I've been working on my book. I was using speech recognition and it's got quite a bit of it wrong. So I've had to go back and read through my care files again. There's one file there and another file here. I've got rid of a lot of stuff, but I've had to read through it again for the third time. And the first time I read my care files was awful because the stuff that is written in them is quite hurtful and quite distressing to read. To read all about how problematic I was in my childhood. Several people in the care experience community have, said quite strongly, "Oh, that's not you, it's not true, it isn't who you are," and all that malarkey. And several people burn their files, and quite a lot of people avoid ever reading their files because of that matter. So the first time I read them, it was quite distressing and difficult to read. So I'm going to talk about the importance of your relationship with your care file. So the first time I read them, as I said, was really difficult, mainly because I was reading stuff like this. There is no doubt that in recent weeks there has been an increase in Jeremy's disturbed behaviour. That's me. This is taking the form of answering back and arguing, etc. He is also emphasising his persecution complex more forcefully. On our trips to London, he discusses general topics and also the kicking cockerel, machine gun cockerel, and the cockerel revolutionaries. These form a large part of his play. I believe it is too early to say whether the therapy is having any beneficial effect, though this effect isn't being felt at Honeywood. I would also add that Jeremy is getting far too much attention for his own good, and I think he needs a little normality, in inverted commas. Now, that is not the worst thing that was written about me. Now, the first time you read something like that is very distressing, because there is, as you can see, there's no compassion, empathy or understanding there whatsoever. And I know the first time I read my care files, my mental health declined quite drastically and significantly for quite a long, protracted period of time. There was a lot of self-blame. There was a lot of chastising of myself, for not doing better, being more responsible. Now, bear in mind, I'm 11 years old. I'm 11 years old when they're writing about me there. Okay, so yeah. Now, obviously, kicking cockerel, machine gun cockerel, and revolutionary cockerel are aspects of my personality, and I'm obviously not happy. I'm obviously very angry. I'm obviously very distressed. I'm obviously very fucked off, and to say I'm getting too much attention when I'm in the care system and I've been abused and neglected in my childhood, is not a very kind thing to say. So obviously that was all quite triggering the first time I read it, okay? So when I did my book, I reread my care files again, but more thoroughly. So every single report, every single statement from staff like that, I read. Now there's dozens and dozens and dozens of statements like that from various staff from the various children's homes I was in. So the second time, it hurt again. It really was quite painful to read. And my mental health was affected but I was able to start to look at it from a more neutral point of view. So I was able to sort of think, well, I'm a traumatized 11, 12-year-old boy there. My foster placement had broken down. I had moved, so by that time in my life, I'd gone from my mum to a foster carer, to my mum to a residential nursery for 4 months, to my mum to a residential nursery for 4 months, back to my mum, to an assessment centre for 4 months, to a children's home for 4 years, to a foster placement for 1.5 years, to an assessment centre when the foster placement broke down, and the children's home. So that was something like 13 moves. So I'd moved 13 times in 11 years. Okay, and been to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different placements. Because some of the placements were the same, so the nursery was the same. I went twice to the nursery and twice to the assessment centre. So I was able to look at it from that point of view, but it still hurt, and there's still a degree of me chastising myself and not doing better and not behaving better and not, sorting my life out, so to speak, So the third time, which is recently, I read them and I was able to think, well, what do I know about that member of staff? So what I knew about him was he was Scottish, and I believe he had quite a strict Presbyterian upbringing, so he was actually projecting his own shit onto me when he wrote that, in terms of I was getting too much attention. Well, who's he to decide how much attention I should and should not get? I obviously needed love and compassion and understanding, which I wasn't getting. Hence needing the cockerels to help me kick people's asses who were pissing me off, I also recall and know that none of the staff there really had much training or understanding and experience of working with traumatized people. And then I realized, obviously, that I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, so no wonder I had a persecution complex, because that is a very big symptom of having complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So at 11 years old, I was acting out CPST, So no wonder I was behaving that way. And again, I reminded myself that I was a traumatized little boy who just needed and wanted to be loved and understood, and someone to take all the pain away. So I was able to read it and understand myself a lot better, and come at it from a compassionate and pragmatic point of view, and get to the point where actually I said to myself was, I was doing my best at that time. I was 12 years old. I was doing my best with the resources that I had, and actually I was doing well. And those behaviour manifestations were manifestations of behaviour of traumatised children. That is how they behave, especially children that have been abused and neglected. So I wasn't acting abnormally, I was acting normally in the context of what I had experienced in my life. And this, what he wrote, I could read what the other staff wrote, which is even worse and horrible. But what he wrote was his own judgment of the situation, not taking into account everything that I'd been through and all my experiences. And he certainly wasn't coming from an angle of love and compassion. So I was able to be more compassionate to myself and more pragmatic in terms of the context of the situation. So, to say, well, actually, I did really well. I was doing really well, and I was doing my best. And I was doing what I thought was best at the time. So when and if you read your care files, I recommend that you read them at least 3 times. So read them, give it a break because you will need a break, get support after you've read them, make sure you've got people around you who can support and understand you. And then when you feel ready again, read them again, okay? And read them looking at it from a different angle. So look at it from, if you can, a neutral point of view. And then again, leave it a break, get support as well. And then leave it maybe a couple of months and go back to them a third time and read them a third time. And just consider all you had been through and what was going on for you. Consider the context of your life and the context of a situation, and look at it from a compassionate and pragmatic point of view, and from a compassionate and pragmatic lens, like I have, like I did the third time, in order to be more compassionate to yourself and look at it from a more rounded point of view. Yes, you may well have behaved very badly at that point in your life, but there are very good reasons for your behaviour, and your behaviour wasn't you. Your behaviour was a manifestation of the trauma, the neglect, the abuse, and all the crap that you'd faced in your life up until that point. So you need to give yourself a break, really, and not blame yourself and chastise yourself and get upset with yourself. And the people who were writing those reports were writing them from one point of view anyway. So, they were looking out for trouble and looking out for problems to write and report on. And in terms of the situation, you can always add to it as well yourself. So you can say, well, in context, Mary, or whatever your name is doing really well, actually, and this is not surprising that she's behaving this way, considering the problems that she's faced in her life. And we need to be more compassionate, understanding whatever it is with her. So kind of try and look at it from that perspective. The third time that you read your files, the third time that you look at them, you'll be focused on one or two bits. I'd imagine one or two bits will jump out at you, but you can actually more importantly as well, after I read that book, The Body Keeps Score, it said that our traumatized inner children want to be heard, actually. So if you negate that part of yourself and say it wasn't me, it's not true, it wasn't like that, well, you're negating your traumatized inner child. Your traumatized inner child wants the pain to be acknowledged. That is why they were acting out when you were 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, whatever it was. They want to be heard. They want their pain to be acknowledged. They want it to be acknowledged, all the bad things that their parents, your parents or your caregivers did to you in terms of the neglect and the abuse. They want that to be heard. They want it to be seen. They want it to be told. They want their stories to be told and acknowledged. That is why you were behaving that way when you were that age, So you do yourself a disservice by completely negating it and rejecting it and then brushing it aside and burying it. You need to bring it out in some way, in a safe way, and just say, well, actually, yeah, what happened was really shit, actually. It was absolutely, really, really, really terrible. And your parents or your granny or whoever it was were terrible, and they behaved awfully towards you. And you deserve to be treated much better. You deserved loved. You deserved understanding. You deserved to be fed and clothed and looked after and cradled and taken care of, and you deserve to be looked at with love from your caregivers and parents. And you say that to your hurt inner child, because that is what they're desperately wanting to be, what they're wanting to hear. Not to be again brushed aside and put into a corner and told to shut up, and that you can't bring it into the open. But all this needs to be done safely. So only do this if you feel you're able to look at it and take care of it. So I mean, that's what I'd say and recommend. Thank you.